Now, as you know, USC Annenberg sits at the global crossroads of media, technology, creativity, and culture. And we thought, what better person to celebrate that and bring it to life in new and exciting ways than Grammy winning musician, DJ, entrepreneur, and all around culture guru, Amir Questlove Thompson. Not only is Questlove the celebrated drummer for the pioneering hip hop group The Roots, now seen every night on The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon, but he has become his own creative industry. He's at the helm of radio shows, directing acclaimed documentaries, co head of his own production company, 215, a series of books on music and food, including his latest, Music is History, out this fall, even a masterclass on music curation and DJing. Questlove, we are so excited to have you joining us. If there is anyone who can provide us the inspiration and soundtrack for our class of 2021, it's you. Take it away, my friend.
Wow. I'm sorry, I brought my own echo effects, Willow. Wow. No, that was incredible. I appreciate that. Okay, let's get started. This is a Questlove Revolution Short Shot. Hello there. People, parents, family members, staff, alumni, and most importantly, graduates. My name is Questlove. When I was first approached about speaking today, I kind of scoffed at the notion because, why would anyone younger than my first Grammy want to hear from a representative of a generation who failed them? And so I wanted to say some things, but I didn't want it to fall on deaf ears. So I want you guys to learn things that took me 5 decades to get right. Do I have your attention? I hope so. Okay, let's start with who I am. I introduced myself as Questlove at the beginning. Some of you people might know me as a drummer, as a band leader, as an author, filmmaker, paragraph blogger on Instagram, whatever. You know me mainly by my work, but I wasn't always Questlove. I started out as Amir Thompson, and that's the name I got from birth. And over the time, I developed this moniker, this other name, Questlove, and it's not just a stage name. It's a direction. Yeah, it's a direction, and it's a direction that I gave myself to follow. It's a way of asking questions, but that's not what I'm going to do today. Why? Good question. What is the point? So let's start with what's the point? And a small question about a big idea. And I know it sounds cliche to ask, what's the point of life? But I could tell you all the things that aren't the point. Definitely wealth. Take it from someone that has ran up that endless mountain chasing what they thought was fulfillment, So wealth is not the point of life. Status is also not the point. And most importantly, the approval of others. But I will give you idea and insight on what I think is the point. And I think the point is high. It's finding a higher purpose. It's finding a higher purpose in life. And by that, I mean, whatever it is that takes you past the boundary of your own fear. And, fear is always the boundary or the velvet rope that we sort of use to limit what we can do in life. And the feeling, It's a flinch. It's cold sweat. But deeper down, fear is what you're feeling whenever you decide to give the power that you have to other people. And it's their thoughts of you rather than your thoughts in your heart. I've noticed that oftentimes the voice of doubt that's in our head, we'll say some really mean things to ourselves that we wouldn't allow anyone else to ever say to us. So you have to follow what's in your heart. And much of what drives the world is really fear. Like fear is a weapon that's used to drive the world. And fear, like your challenge is to get past that. And that's important. So let's examine who put the fear there. Sometimes it's good to actually have your own echo effects. Okay, so the people my age, and I just turned 50. People my age have aged into positions of prominence and power, and now people my age are called to sort of transmit this infinite wisdom to you guys. And on one hand, that sort of makes sense because that's the circle of life. Like I'm supposed to morph into the sage, but I've been through some things and I can reflect on them. But on the other hand, I do honestly feel a sense of shame in giving that wisdom, given that my generation sort of left you guys in one of the worst positions imaginable. And this is real talk. This is not like false modesty or whatever. I know somebody must be rolling their eyes right now. Like, really? It's bad enough I'm in a pandemic. I'm listening to this guy have a therapy session. I'm like, who does that? He's supposed to be encouraging me. But seriously, my generation and the generations before it left you guys in the worst position imaginable. And that's real talk. My generation presided over a bunch of things that set the tone for years, decades to come. And we're kind of past them now, but they're always going to define the present. So, for example, like we may be post-AIDS, but the AIDS epidemic sort of changed. It changes the way that people thought about sex and sexuality. We might be post-crack, but crack definitely changed the way that people thought about cities, inner cities, and race. But those things introduced so much fear into the world. And for that matter, think of the plague that we're still in. And I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about technology. We're in several plagues right now. It's just COVID is the immediate life-threatening one. But basically, with the age of the internet and social media, it kind of destroyed face-to-face communication, and they put fear in this place. And I'm not against social media. I adapt to every form of social media, and I use it all the time. And I don't want to come off as, the grumpy old guy that tells you guys, go outside and that sort of thing. I want you to think about the amount of fear that it produces. The fear of missing out. Like, there's a term, FOMO, of course. The fear of not living up to expectations. The fear of being watched or being exposed or being canceled. The fear of not being watched, of being ignored. Getting past that is necessary to get to the next thing. So you have to erase fear. So exactly what is the next big thing? So I want you to think about fear and also about curiosity, because they kind of go hand in hand. And to think about using your curiosity to push past fear. Why? Because you need to reinvent the world. This is the new Roaring 20s. This happened in 1920. This happened in 1820, in 1720. It's almost like the 20s define what the century is about to be about. And I know I say it casually, like it's up to you guys to reinvent the world, but it's not a fun project to think about. You know, it's almost a burden, but it is your responsibility. And I know here at USC, like the clout of going to, I'll call it a legacy school. You know, I don't know what that means in 2021. You know, if you're not up for building a new world, like why even go to a school like this if you're not interested in building the world? The standard status quo that has gotten us where we are today is damn near, it's pretty much going to be ancient. Everything, even I'm going to be ancient. I'm probably ancient now to you. And this is frightening, and it's a beautiful time also to take the wheel, you know. Look at the guys before you, millennials who came before you. You know, unfortunately, again, they took their advice from, you know, my generation, and we told them to chase money without any spiritual fulfillment. I was one of those people also that chased, man. I know the irony is not lost on me that I'm here in my plush, cozy penthouse, 73rd floor, Manhattan surroundings. But, you know, it's chasing money is nothing without spiritual fulfillment. And the billionaires that we idolized, you know, the winners from all those decades, from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s till now, they kind of led us down a rabbit hole of diminished returns. Of all of them, I can name maybe two that probably even dared to introduce the conversation of spiritual fulfillment as a key to happiness. And it is, you know, I don't mean traditional spirituality. I'm not talking about religion or whatnot. I mean something that's wider and deeper. Community. Community is important. And connection. So whatever you do in the world, you know, has to in some ways be for the world. Boxer Muhammad Ali once said that service to others is the rent that you pay for your room on earth. Again, service to others is the rent that you pay for your room here on earth. And those are important words to go by.
We ain't got time to be tired. We got a long, long way to go. That's right. A long, long, long way to go. Now listen.
All right, so that leads us to can you undo don't? Again, can you undo don't? So another thing about my generation, another disclosure, is our relationship to the word don't. You know, I grew up in this era of don't. You know, don't hang in the streets, you're going to get killed. Don't do anything, Amir, to get pulled over. Don't you mess up in school. Don't drop out of college. Like, okay, I dropped out of college. Don't do drugs, all those things. The culture of don't. That's what my generation went by. And, you know, of course, our parents had good intentions, but it created this sort of cautiousness, you know, which is a cousin of fear. And it created this thing where like people my age get stuck in their ways because, again, they're being ruled by fear. So you have trouble growing, and your generation has to balance that out faster than mine did. Grow any chance you get. And I know oftentimes it's like in your 20s, you're told like, this is my time to just live reckless and, you know, be free and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, to a fault, but no, it's time moves fast, you know. I mean, I still consider myself a 20-year-old, even though I'm 25 years older than most of you, right? No, 30 years older than, okay, 35 years older than most of you. Anyway, yeah, so it's important to grow any chance you get. And that means overcoming your fear. And that means understanding that living without fear is the destination all by itself. So I want to encourage all of you to think in terms of do. I want you to do. Do speak spiritual fulfillment. Do manifest your future. Do put that energy out there. Do try to see the world not for what it is, but what it could be. And again, I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's the truth. Do pull what's good and useful out of the speeches you hear from people like me. And forgive us for the rest. I'm asking for forgiveness on behalf of anybody born before, 2000. I'm sorry. Yeah, and I give you people permission to start anew and refresh and come up with new quality ideas and, lead, take the wheel. So, can you do what's never been done before? Can you do what's never been done before? Okay. So I know you agree that it would be nice to sort of come up with this new quality idea thing. Like, what are these quality ideas I'm talking about? But it's like, how can you do that? Like, if you want to be a pioneer, you're going to have to push against the expectation that you're here at college and that you're going out into the world, and follow the lead of your great-grandparents, your grandparents, your parents, your success. And I'm putting that in quotes because it's only one kind of success that defines you. But defining you is a form of limiting you. Like, if you start defining yourself right now, it limits you. So how do you become unique and pioneering while balancing the responsibility you feel to them? And, I think it's the very idea of legacies is in flux, And when I speak of legacies, like, I'm sure some of you have, again, great grandparents and grandparents and like legacy kids that went to USC. My generation was told that we were standing on the shoulders of giants, and now everything is more disposable because of the culture coming out. It's coming out at like an alarming rate, and there's something liberating about watching things move at this pace. For one thing, it lets you relate to the past differently. So in the past few years, I directed my first movie. I got over my fear and directed my first movie. And it's a documentary called Summer of Soul. And that brings to light a summer concert that was thrown in 1969 in Harlem. And up until now, awareness of that event was sort of missing in the world. And making that movie restored it. There was a purpose of me working on a film that was lost, the footage sitting in a dungy basement for 50 years. And I took it and put it back into the world where it should have been. And I found part of my purpose and part of the past that the present had discarded. And it was something that the world sort of needed, but kind of didn't know that it needed. And now it's begun. So next we ask, how can you do what's never been done? All right, so how can you? Me too. I'm not dead yet. How can we do what's never been done? So navigating the world and finding things that activate your uniqueness really isn't an easy process. It's not a program. It's not dance steps. But I do have a few pieces of advice. First, fly just a little by the seat of your pants. I know people say that all the time. Fly by the seat of your pants. But yeah, it's important to fly by the seat of your pants. And one of the things that sort of kept me going was a lack of foresight. And I am exactly where I am today, partly because it seemed rather old-fashioned and square to be too strategic about getting from here to there. Now, it's not saying that I'm not calculating about planning and what I want out of life, but sometimes you just got to fly by the seat of your pants. So you can have goals and you can have dreams, and you should, but you should also make sure that you keep the path flexible on your way to the destination. So in other words, when I was your age, I just thought I was going to be a drummer and nothing else. Like, I didn't want to write books. I didn't want to become a food advocate. I didn't want to direct. I just thought, no, I want to be just a master of one thing and not a jack of all trades. No, you should be flexible on the path to your destination. Secondly, walking that path is just as much about stopping along that way. So in life, you're going to encounter a million moments where you don't know what to do. You probably don't know what you're going to do tomorrow. It's like you got your degree, your receipt, and you won't know what to do. And when you feel unsure or overloaded, when that happens, I suggest you lay back, lay out, take a minute to let your mind relax. I know your parents are probably rolling their eyes right now. Like, what are you saying, Questlove? We want them to go out and get a job immediately. But no, I actually encourage boredom so that thoughts can come and ideas can come. And I call these moments micro meditations. They give your brain a minute to go and find the right solution in your soul. And it's great to talk about a flexible path, but I know that the longer it feels that you're on a detour, the more you're going to feel other pressures, like your bills, financial ones. And I understand that not making enough money is also a major issue in life that all of us have. And many of you are going to leave here and probably return to a home that you personally don't own. Many of you are going to go back to living with your parents, and you're shouldering the burden of not feeling independent. And you can't let that get to you. Do not let that get to you. Your generation is already fighting. Well, not fighting. They're figuring out how to navigate this. And you're shifting away from ownership culture. My generation, we valued certain things like cars and credit depth ourselves to death. Like you guys remember 2008? A lot of you were, just in elementary school. And if you don't remember it, good. It really wasn't pretty. The time for us is now. The time for us is now. The time for us is now. So I'm going to wrap up. I do want to finish where all of our minds are now, which is the pandemic. Now, okay, when it started, I went through the terror stage. I was fear-mongering. I was like everyone else. I didn't know if I was coming or going. But I knew that it wasn't going to last. I personally couldn't let it last. Like, I saw to it that it not last. And I talked earlier about how the main plot lines of the last 40 years were mostly about fear. But COVID's a little bit different. And, it had to be more than just another reason to be afraid. So I kind of settled into the year of change for me, the better. And 2020 was a year of change for me. It was a change for all of us. And the first thing I noticed that what I used to do, which is work hard. If you look me up, you'll see that I have 42 billion jobs. So for me, working hard became a thing of the past. And I don't mean hard work. Like, hard work is vital. I mean capital W working, capital H hard, where you define yourself by how much time you're spending not at peace with yourself. And if you talked to me a few years ago, I would have located much of my identity in the whole Questlove has 18, 19, 20 jobs thing. Even if you Google it, I always say that, like, I'm the guy with 19 jobs, as sort of like a badge of honor. And I was very proud of being the second hardest working man in show business. Google who's the hardest working man in show business. Of course, it's James Brown. But over this last year, what was revealed to me was that working hard in that way left absolutely zero space for joy. And last year, I was forced to find and create new joys. And now that I've embraced them, it's like, why would I ever go back? You know, you hear people talking about going back to normal. Why would I ever want to go back? So finding joy and passion is a must. And it's also a large-scale application of meditation principle that I outlined earlier. And some of the most driven people I know had to take time out to embrace that silence and live inside themselves. And many of them, you know, they knew something was missing, but for the first time, they had the time to find it. Like, that's the thing. Collectively, as a world, we had time to find it because we were all on timeout. So finally, remember that finding it inside yourself helps you find it in the world, and it helps you connect the two. So this past year, you know, it reminded me of how the world, you know, how much of the world there is and how much we need it. And I kind of used to laugh at the concept of a gap year. I used to roll my, you know, every Gen Z, every millennial, every whoever came before me, post Gen X, you know, the idea of taking a gap year, whatever. But now I think that's the most important thing in life. So I recommend that highly. Sorry, parents. I'm telling your kids to really take time out to decide what it is that they want to contribute to the world before they do it. And so, you know, the world, you gotta live in and learn those things. That's all I can say. And don't take it for granted that you'll always be able to do that. So that's it. I planned on talking for 10 to 15 minutes, and now I'm sure it's almost a half hour. So I just want to congratulate you guys on your graduation. And I want you to go out forth into the world. And it's kind of hard to choose background music and talk at the same time. I want you guys to go out into the world and just let your spirit fly. And, you know, when you hit that altitude, you'll see the lay of the land, and you'll figure out what took me 5 decades to learn. And I look forward to seeing the world that you guys make. Please remake the world. Thank you. And congratulations.